All right, welcome back to the technology sales profession. Noel Rout from Technology Profession. All right, so we've covered basic overview. We've talked about selling software. Now we're going to talk about selling network and network equipment, network gear, network software, which includes a whole lot of different things. Firewalls, routers, voice over IP equipment. There's a lot to selling network gear. It's a huge industry and very, very lucrative. So what is network sales? Well, network sales and associated network equipment, 500 billion a year industry. And the hardware and software associated with IT networks are responsible for things like the internet, as well as phone and data systems. If we didn't have this gear and this equipment, basically the world would not be as it is today. We would still be in the dark ages practically. But now we are a connected universe, a connected world because of all this networking equipment used across all these companies and the internet and governments, etc. And there's a lot of pieces to it. For example, you have routers. Now, for those of you who are very curious about this, take a look at our networking track under the IT primer that's included in the six-figure career plan program. There's a great overview on networking and how the internet works and networking equipment. So definitely go back and revisit that if you're interested in learning more. But in terms of networking components, you have things like routers, firewalls, phone systems, voice over IP phone systems, where instead of going over traditional copper, it's digitizing the conversation and moving it over the network as data in the same way like your email would or internet traffic. Video conferencing, very similar technology. It's digitizing it, compressing all that video, and sharing it as data across a network. Servers, lots of servers. Some are specifically built for networking type purposes, such as DNS servers, or some are just connected together as part of the network. You have content caching devices, which basically if you have two different offices maybe in different countries and you don't always want to go back and forth over the internet because it's slow and maybe it's expensive, you can cache content within a specific geographic location, thereby saving the need to go out to, say, if you were in Europe and you had to go back to America to get a document, that document potentially could be cached in Europe, so it's a lot more efficient. Cabling, never underestimate cabling. Even in this age of wireless, we still need tons of cable. Every office building that you've ever worked in literally has miles of cable running through it, connecting all the different computers, servers. Wireless is great, but it's not always reliable, and it's not as fast as really good high-end cablings. So definitely cabling is still very viable and very expensive. Management software, traffic management appliances, there's a lot. And these are just a few. These are the ones you'll see on a more common basis. But there definitely are a lot of pieces to selling networking gear. Biggest players out there. Cisco is going to be your biggest player, for sure. And if you're looking to say, oh, okay, I might want to explore selling networking type gear, just focus on Cisco. Cisco is going to be the company. They're the dominant player. I'm not sure how much they do in sales a year, but it's definitely like in the tens of billions of dollars. And I've talked to a lot of Cisco reps in the past, and out at a happy hour or at a conference, you get a couple cocktails and they start bragging that they're making like $350 to $450 a year. So again, really very well compensated if you're successful selling network equipment. Some of the competitors are Extreme Networks and Juniper. They make, things like firewalls and routers that compete with Cisco, but Cisco is still the dominant player. And then you have more specialty networking companies like F5. F5 makes content routing applications and hardware for very large websites where you get millions of views a day, and maybe your sites are geographically distributed and that traffic's load balanced. F5 makes that sort of technology. But all that aside, if you just want to really explore this, take a look at Cisco, look at the gear they're selling, maybe look at a couple of their certifications, and look for companies that sell Cisco gear. Because here's the thing, you can sell Cisco without actually being an employee for Cisco. There's lots of third-party companies or VARs, value-added resellers, that sell Cisco gear, or Extreme, or Juniper, and they tend to sell consulting services with the hardware as well. So definitely take a look at that. One thing to keep in mind, if you want to get into selling network gear, you got a little bit of a bar to cross because you've got to know this stuff. When you're selling software, you're dealing with different departments like HR, finance, the executive team. You maybe don't need to be as technically proficient. But here's the thing, if you're selling network gear, you're dealing with information technology, and they expect the people that sell them things actually know what they're selling and what they're talking about. That they have that more consultative approach that we've talked about. So just know if you want to get into network sales, it's great, it's lucrative. You're just going to have to do your homework, and you're going to have to really work at learning everything there is about the products that you're selling. All right, so what do these guys make? We talked about, I've heard rumor of huge numbers. Base salary is always going to be low. You're probably going to make 40, 50 going in the door, and you're going to be making a lot of phone calls, a lot of cold calling. However, once you get going and making commission, you can definitely make a couple $100,000 in commission a year as you grow in the field. And as I mentioned, I know just based on conversations, if you're successful at selling network equipment, there's no reason you can't make $300,000 a year or more. One thing is worth pointing out, though, these guys do travel a lot. They tend to have bigger regions because the things companies only refresh their network equipment maybe every 3 to 5 years, and it's super expensive. So you have to have a pretty large region to kind of keep that churn going. So be prepared to be on an airplane a little bit if you're selling network equipment. All right, friends, thanks. Stick around for the next technology sales professional modules coming your way here in a second.